Senator Rand Paul wants the DOJ to investigate Dr. Anthony Fauci, and he's sending a criminal referral to them to do so. This after another heated exchange between Kentucky Senator Paul and Dr. Fauci on Capitol Hill yesterday. Paul accusing Fauci of lying to Congress about his role in funding research at the controversial Wuhan lab. Our national correspondent Logan Raddick has the latest.
Well, Heather, Senator Rand Paul's accusing Dr. Fauci of lying to Congress, but he's taking things a step further by sending a criminal referral letter to the Department of Justice about Dr. Fauci.
Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function. Let me finish.
Senator Paul citing an admission from the Wuhan Institute's Dr. Shi Zhengli that the NIH and Dr. Fauci's National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases in fact funded gain-of-function research at that lab.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans,
right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly.
This is your definition that you guys wrote. It says that scientific research that increases the transmissibility among mammals is gain of function. They took animal viruses that only occur in animals and they increased their transmissibility to humans. How you can say that is not gain of function?
It is not.
It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world from a pandemic.
Paul's letter to the DOJ mentions that lying to Congress carries a penalty of up to 5 years in prison. His efforts are being praised by fellow Republicans, including Congressman Madison Cawthorn.
And I'll tell you, I normally have a great amount of respect for the people who work here in Capitol Hill, knowing that although we have different ideas of how to accomplish it, we are all trying to work for the betterment of the American people. But I will tell you right now, that is not the case with Anthony Fauci.
Senator Mike Braun was one of the Republicans in the hearing with Paul questioning Dr. Fauci.
But my main beef with him is, you said it earlier, he has been all over the map on spacing, 3 feet, 6 feet, methodology. I mean, you could pick at any point in time where he said something that was completely rebutted or refuted later.
And Senator Paul says one of the reasons he wrote that letter is because multiple scientists have reached out to him saying they do not trust Dr. Fauci. But coronavirus is a primary concern here on Capitol Hill. We've seen members and staffers, including a staffer for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, test positive after receiving the vaccine. Maryland Democrat Jamie Raskin calls this a nightmare scenario. And now House Republican Whip Steve Scalise, he has received the first dose of the vaccine because he's citing the Delta variant as a reason for concern. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Logan. Joining us now to discuss more on this topic is President of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton. Tom, thank you very much for joining us. I was certainly thinking about you yesterday when I was listening to this, going back and forth and remembering the emails that Judicial Watch and you were able to get, whatever, 300 pages, all of these emails that really laid out the exact opposite of what Dr. Fauci was trying to claim.
Yeah, they show the email. The emails show that they were terribly concerned. Fauci himself was concerned that they were funding gain-of-function research. And, you know, the caveat he has, well, there was no direct study that we funded that resulted in coronavirus being released. A, we don't necessarily know that, but B, it doesn't address Dr. Paul's point, Senator Paul's point, is that they were funding it generally. Now, he can pretend it's not gain-of-function research, but my understanding as a layman and listening to what the scientists say, it's obviously gain-of-function research. And he's talking about this analysis that was done of the gain-of-function research that China gave us credit for, gave his agency credit for. He says that was reviewed. Well, where's the review? Where are the documents? We are in federal court against this man's agency that has been stonewalling, slow walking, and redacting, blacking out, practically speaking, information that could answer questions like this and a whole host of others.
And through what you were able to discover, were there not, 9 or 10 at least different grants that went to specifically this Eco Health Alliance organization that we do know was funding the research that was happening there at the Wuhan lab?
Yeah, it was back coronavirus research. And I tell you, when you look at the additional grants that went to China-connected entities, both here and directly or indirectly in China, it's astonishing. You're talking about page after page of grant material. We don't know what the money is. They didn't put the money in the document. But Dr. Fauci is not, my guess, not only concerned about what he was funding in terms of its impact potentially on the potential release out of the Wuhan lab of coronavirus, the COVID-19, but what else they were funding. Gain of function is Russian roulette. You're hoping that you're weaponizing, not for weapons purposes, but you're increasing the dangerousness of these viruses, and you're hoping that you're able to use that to try to figure out ways to protect human beings if it gets out.
That's the best case scenario.
Before it gets out, all bets are off, and that's what
Right.
may have happened with Wuhan.
That's the legit reason for the research, if it is happening. I want to get your reaction to Senator Rand Paul laying out the evidence for Dr. Fauci. Watch this.
Take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about.
We're saying they are gain of function viruses because they were
They're not.
animal viruses that became more transmissible in human, and you funded it.
And you
admit the truth.
You are implying that what we did was responsible for the deaths of individual. I totally resent that.
could have
And
been.
if anybody
could
is
have been.
lying here, Senator, it is you.
All right. So he was not making that direct correlation, Senator Paul there. He was saying it could have if, in fact, this funding did happen.
Well, you notice the little dance and the little jib that Dr. Fauci did there. He didn't deny that they were funding gain of function research, at least in that line of questioning. He tried to, again, back away, saying, well, the idea that what we did led to this release, we don't know how it was released, if indeed it was released. And we do know he was worried about the very question he's now angry at Dr. Powell at asking. And we only know about that is because the records were forced out as a result of our lawsuits and, frankly, media lawsuits that forced this material out. They've been sitting on this stuff for well over a year, and now we know why, in my view, because they didn't want it coming out. Dr. Fauci's agency didn't want it coming out. And one of the reasons it's been stalled, and I've said it once on this network, I'll say it again, is because the government has told us that Dr. Fauci and his team need to review these documents before they're released. It's highly unusual.
Interesting. Wait, now they need to take a look at the documents that you have?
Before we get them,
Okay.
Fauci and his top officials look at them.
Okay.
That's not typically how it works.
Interesting. So why do you think that is?
Fauci has a personal interest in it. I mean,
Yeah.
my conclusion is they don't want the material coming out. They're saying it's because it's so sensitive they can only rely on Dr. Fauci to figure out whether it should be released or not.
Interesting.
All I know is that we're waiting forever and a day to get basic information about WHO, COVID, and his agency's involvement and communications about it. And I tell you what, Congress hasn't gotten the documents, and it's up to Judicial Watch and others to do it.
Yeah.
And it's because of that man, his agency, you see on the screen, Dr. Fauci.
And it's not just the funding. You were also able to access some emails that went back and forth from the director of this Eco Health Alliance, initially asking for them to kind of push aside or put on the back burner or negate any type of rumors that the Wuhan lab was possibly the cause of it from the very beginning.
Let me be more clear. We have emails that we just uncovered between the Wuhan Institute and Fauci's agency. And they're asking, do you have any advice on disinfectants?
Yeah.
This is shortly after the lab was opened, and just a few years before, COVID-19 emerged on the scene. So they had evidence not only then, but we know this email was resent to them in March of 2020. There were significant biosafety concerns, meaning they didn't know how to keep the lab disinfected, and they needed American help to do so. Who was running the lab? The Chinese or NIH?
That's a very good question. And a lot of people are asking that question after watching that exchange yesterday between Dr. Fauci and Senator Paul. And I would definitely advise everyone to get a hold of the information that you were able to get and to read through all of that, because it tells a completely different story than what we were hearing.
That's right. And the media, other than Newsmax and, our usual friends in the media who care more about the truth than helping politicians, the media won't tell you about these documents. So in many ways, you're going to have to go read them yourselves to understand just why Fauci's so nervous.
Yeah. How can people do that, by the way, Tom? We're almost out of time.
Go to our website at judicialwatch.org and all the material we're talking about. Don't trust me.
Look
at the documents yourselves.
Yep.
And you'll see Dr. Fauci has a lot of questions to answer. Yeah. And what's shameful, Dr. Paul, Senator Paul deserves a medal for questioning him as closely as he did. But the fact that he gets virtually no questioning from anyone else about this issue is another scandal.
Well, now he wants the DOJ to look into it, and the fact that he says that Dr. Fauci lied, and you have the proof that he lied. Tom Fitton, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Right.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.